All right, welcome to the kissfaq podcast. It's a holiday day off today, so I've just been watching some random stuff and it's given me a few thoughts, which I thought I'd share. Coming up in 2026, there are going to be a couple of anniversaries, 50th anniversaries for Destroyer and for Rock and Roll Over. So it seems that projects take a very long time to manifest themselves in the world. So I wanted to give some thought to potentially what could be done around both of those. And yes, there'll be other albums celebrating anniversaries in 2026 as well, but these are the ones that really form the core of Kiss, really the originals era. Obviously, Destroyer has already had the 45th anniversary Super Deluxe edition, so I think that's pretty much emptied out the vaults of most of the serviceable demos. The live recording on that being the Paris, audience recording of high quality super bootleg, missed the mark, but I want to come back to Destroyer in a little bit. Rock and Roll Over, to me, has always been a product that has a great deal of potential. There's my personal opinion of the album, which is that it's possibly, for my taste, the best representation of Kiss's sound in the studio, or at least captured in the studio, on released album in the originals era. It was a complete reaction to Destroyer going the 100% opposite direction and really getting back to meat and potatoes, hairy guerrilla rock music. So I thoroughly dig. We know that obviously it would include a remaster and an Atmos treatment for the album. But around the area of demos, I think that one we know, obviously there are demos that are circulated in fan circles from the Davlin reel recorded in August 1976. That's my guess anyway for the date. For Take Me, Baby Driver, and See You in Your Dreams. Mr. Speed was featured on the 2001 Kiss box set. So there are more than likely going to be other demos as well, potentially Hard Luck Woman, which would be very appealing, very tasty. Then go into the recording sessions, and there's the backing track for Queen for a Day. Now it's incomplete, apparently, but who cares? Let's hear that sucker. And I believe there was also a mystery track also recorded at the end of those sessions. I don't know if there's a title or not. Whatever. What is in those vaults for the album sessions? What alternate takes? What alternate mixes? I think there's probably enough of value to at least half fill a CD and combine it with the known demos. Then we get into Gene Simmons. Gene's vault, offered edited versions of many of his demos from the period, many of which were directly geared towards these albums but weren't used. So there's stuff like Rotten to the Core, High and Low obviously split, some of the songs that were the formation basis for the songs that were recorded, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, clearly, has multiple demos available dating back several years. That can be buttressed. So I don't think there's any shortage of demo and studio material to do Rock and Roll Over justice as a Super Deluxe edition next year. Live, we know there's plenty of live material that could be called for a live disc or two, because I think the show lengths for that period were roughly, they'll fit on a CD. So a couple of shows would be very nice. And of course, then we have the rehearsals for the tour and rehearsals for pre-production as well, for that matter, depending on what was recorded. We certainly know that things were recorded because there's the video that does circulate, but Universal doesn't seem to be interested in leveraging video assets at this time. Again, that's a difficult business area, which I'm sure that they've analyzed ad nauseum to see where, the profit and return on investment lies in terms of product, and also the complexity of releasing things in the digital world when DVDs seem to be falling by the wayside. Though I do hear DVDs are coming back in fashion, just like cassette tape, so who knows? Anything is possible in the music business. It's all about profit and bottom line at the end of the day. So Rock and Roll Over clearly has a great deal of potential as a box. Not only the cover art lends itself to be done spectacularly. And getting into the live stuff, of course, you also have the Rock and Roll Over Party in Japan, or Rock and Roll Party in Japan, pardon me, unreleased live album from March 1977 that was abandoned. It was mixed. There were multiple reels sold at auction, or pulled from auction years ago from the Eddie Kramer tapes, and they're the multi-tracks for those that were recorded because he flew into Japan specifically to record those shows. So again, Eddie Kramer has, by his own admission in podcasts and interviews, mentioned that he's remixed source material for the Alive album. So why not utilize him to remix, get it done now, get it in the can. No one's getting any younger. And it's much better to have those be revisited by the person who was responsible for recording them in the first place. So I would like Eddie to remix Rock and Roll Party in Japan, release that. If they want to do a record store day or off the soundboard, they've still got the original version as it was contemporaneously in 1977 before being abandoned to be a separate product or included in a kitchen sink type environment. But again, you take that with the other shows that are potentially available. I think we'd all like to hear a pristine live version of the electric version of Hard Luck Woman from December 1976. I don't know if anything does exist. We certainly have the rehearsals from video of those being recorded, whether there's a suitable audio source that can be a service that does justice both to the song and performance, and that's a different matter. I don't know. Some of those rehearsals are a bit dodgy, to say the least. So in terms of hotkeys and inside a book, duh. I mean, that's a given. It gets very difficult at this point to get anything new, I guess. But there is certainly more than enough space to tell a story, and there are certainly more than enough pictures to visually do justice to the period. So the tour book from the tour, that's kind of a redundant statement, but I'm not doing any notes for this, is spectacularly colorful. It was an update of the one that was included in the Destroyer box. So again, they've done that once. I think if they don't want to reproduce the North American tour book, then how about reproducing the Japanese tour book, which is absolutely beautiful. And I think with a proper print treatment, that cover would look really good. And I hope I'm not mixing up the one in my head between 77 and 78. It's the colorful samurai type cover that I'm thinking of. So going back to Destroyer, the already celebrated Destroyer, what can Universal do? Well, in my view, the biggest complaint about the original box set was that live recording. So what I think is potentially doable, and again, from a fan point of view who doesn't see any of the spreadsheets involved in bringing any of these products to life, how about a new series of box sets? Kiss Alive, The Spirit of 76 tour. Start doing some live boxes. Potentially we're going to have the Alive box, and that makes the perfect starting point for a live box set series. We know there is no shortage of material. A couple of years ago, video access was granted to Universal's Iron Mountain Vault, and during the tour of that facility, a couple of KISS assets were shown. A reel from the Dress to Kill sessions, I think it was February the 19th. I'll put the image up now. But if you look to the right side of that screen capture, you will see the master reels for Anaheim. And performance-wise, okay, these are what they are. KISS was a very active band on stage and notoriously difficult to record because they were running around. They were going at the speed of life. And again, they are what they are, but they are a moment captured in time. Eddie Kramer has clearly remixed reels for Alive. He recorded this reel. He was on retainer, I think, for 30 days in the summer of 1976, so potentially other shows were captured. Certainly over the years, we've had leaks of Toronto, we've had Cleveland, there's also video for Houston, Roosevelt Stadium, which has had a bootleg pseudo-official release that got squashed by Kiss legal action previously. Kiss Catalog took on, I think it was Passport for that. So that's a lot of shows, but most of these are under 80 minutes per show. That is CD length. That's still double LP, which is great in terms of the price point and profitability or profit margin for any of that product. But why not do a box? Destroyer Spirit of 76 tour. It was the first really super vitamin B recharge of the live show. It was their first professional stage show and tour. It was a very short tour. So in terms of its construct, I think if you do, you legitimize Toronto, you legitimize Cleveland, warts and all, those can be treated very well in the studio to really improve and enhance the sonics, to make them a whole new listening experience. Just take Tokyo 2001 as an example of what's able to be done. So those, I think, are still valid, more so than, say, wasting them as an off-the-soundboard, which doesn't seem to have a lot of energy or impetus behind it. So that's two right there. Anaheim, though, with multi-track 2-inch reel available, potentially, again, just because it's 2-inch media doesn't mean that it was utilized to its full capacity, but it was the Hyder Filmways, I think the same company that was used to record the Alive shows, Live 2 shows in August 77, were hired for that tour, or at least for those shows. So Anaheim, Roosevelt, legitimize the audio to that. We've heard really good sounding audio-only bootlegs. And again, this doesn't go anywhere near the video component, because again, I'm just avoiding that because of my perception that Universal isn't interested in the video component. Now, I do have a self-interest in a live box, and that is revisiting the on-tour tour history. Again, in terms of including a book in with this product, I think that can all be kind of like handed over, and as Elaine did with Mask Hysteria, kind of redistilled into something that works to fully detail and properly document that tour. As we saw from some of the layouts that Ross did for the book that never came out, again, we know that there is the photographic component in order to visually tell a story in a book product specifically around a tour. So with Martin Popoff's book coming out, I would like to see Kiss officially celebrate the Spirit of 76 musically. That to me is just a given that it's another great opportunity. 1976 was a great year. Clearly, Kiss started the year with a party after the Nassau Coliseum show, which is, another one of those great moments in history where Blue Oyster Cult was opening for Kiss, turning the stage, turning the tables on what had happened 2 years previously. So that's really kind of a great starting point. I don't know. Well, Kobo, the 3 Kobo shows in January, again, I still think make a perfect box, especially if they have audio that can be treated. I've just finished working on Ladies in Waiting from night 1 of Kobo, and that audio is pretty rough from the video source. Maybe they have better, but again, that's a potential live audio box of a different sort down the road. Again, I think all these assets are just going to waste. All of these assets potentially have some layer of profitability and reinvesting the interest from the fan base in keeping Kiss alive, no pun intended. And this ties in with how Apple is working with Beatles and the anthology and Beatles assets to kind of start looking at things that will interest a future generation, not only the first generation fan or the second generation fan. And now, obviously, we have third and fourth generation fans coming into the picture. So in order to keep things interesting, what better way than to celebrate the majesty of Kiss than Electric Communion, box sets that focus specifically on the live experience of Kiss. We can never go back there. An Avatar, I don't think, will ever be able to fully represent the moment that those fans had in the 1970s. I know I never can, but I know when I put on my headphones and hear a gloriously properly EQ'd and mixed live recording, that I can shut my eyes, and from all the pictures that I've seen over the years, all the stories that I've heard from the fans that were actually in attendance at those events, that I can, bumper car on that experience ever so slightly while never really having the real thing. So that's food for thought on a day off. I better get back to work on what I was supposed to be working on. Have a great day.